Okay, so going to screen share. Okay, here we are. Omagyanatimirandasya yananjana shalakaya chakshurmilitanjena tasmai shri guruve namaha. So we're continuing with our weekly reading discussion of Sri Daśa-Mūla Tattva, these wonderful verses which are summarizing the whole of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's conception in 10 verses. And we've reached verse number 8. So Suvasini, did you want to chant that verse for us?
Yes, yeah, okay. Hida Brahmam Harirasagalet Vaishnavajanam Kadachit Sampashyam Stad Anughamane Syad Ruchi Yutaha Tada Krishna Vritya Tyajati Sanakair Mayika Dasam Swarupam Vibhrano Vimalarasa Bhogam Sa Kurute. Analysis. Yada, when Brahmam, wandering hither and thither. Kadachit, at some time. Sampashyan, seeing. Hari Rasagalat Vaishnava Janam, a Vaishnava whose heart is melted in the joy of love for Sri Hari. Ruchi Yudaha, Tad Anughamane, the desire to follow that Vaishnava. Syat, becomes possible. Tada, then, Krishna Vritya, by continuously chanting the holy name and glories of Krishna. Sa, that jiva, sanakaihi, gradually, tyajati, loses mayika dashan, his illusory situation. Vibranaha, gaining, swarupam, his own form. Vimala rasa bhogam kurute, and revels in the nectar of Krishna's divine service. Translation. After wandering throughout the higher and lower species of life, when he is blessed with a holy glimpse of a Vaishnava whose heart is melted in the joy of love for Supreme Lord Hari, the attraction to live the life of following in the wake of the Vaishnava is born for the conditioned soul. Continuously chanting the holy name and glories of Lord Krishna, his life of illusory existence is gradually dispelled. He soon attains to his own intrinsic form and becomes eligible to revel in the joy of the unadulterated service of Sri Krishna.
Wow, what a beautiful verse, huh?
Yeah, beautiful.
Do you want to share any thoughts on that verse, Suvasini Didi?
Well, the only thing is to have that attraction, it's through a Vaishnava we get that attraction to the Lord. Now, by seeing the Vaishnava, by hearing from him, by seeing his qualities, and, we get some attraction, right? So that is, he's also saying it's the attraction to live the life following in the wake of Vaishnava is born for the conditioned soul. So.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
And it's also gradually dispelled. It's like the illusory, it's not, it's a gradual process, right? He said it's gradually, this word is using, it's gradually, sanakai, gradually, it comes out of this illusory situation. Right?
Beautiful, beautiful, Didi. Very nice. Anyone else want to share any thoughts on this verse? Well, I'll just add on to Suhasiniji's wonderful comments. This is probably my favorite verse in this composition, and that's I first read this composition. It's been many years ago. I just came across it. It's not so well known. I came across it somewhere, and we come across many things, right? We read and we forget about them, but what always struck me was this verse, and what's being expressed here, and that's what captured me and how I've always remembered it, because it just resonates so much, with the life that we're trying to live. That as Suhasini was expressing so nicely, it's coming in contact with the pure Vaishnava who's living all of this, right? That this type of inspiration is awakened within our heart. Otherwise, everything about spiritual life, it's so remote, right? And abstract and irrelevant, right? Like, it's like we're dealing with some flowery things in the sky, like how is that relevant to my life here and now, making money and taking care of family and education and job and all these things, right? But when you meet, because it's all subtle, that's the thing. So it's difficult for the significance of that to really strike us in a deep way. But when we meet the pure Vaishnava, everything becomes tangible, and the tangible significance, importance, life or deathness, right, of all these things, they suddenly become manifest, become apparent to us because they're showing that, right? They're demonstrating that in such a beautiful and such an attractive way. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, in one place, he uses this very nice expression. He's speaking generally, speaks about like great saints in the world, like Moses, Muhammad, Jesus. They're like lighthouses of faith who are standing and declaring, proving their existence of the supreme entity, right? Even he mentions the example of Socrates, who perhaps he wasn't, so religious or spiritually minded, but he had such faith in the afterlife, right? In the present, the existence of soul, that he was ready to give up everything of this world, including his own body, right? He gave up his own life to prove that, to prove his faith in the existence of the eternal soul, right? And so when we see these types of examples, what to speak of, the pure Krishna Bhakta, who's showing the example of the highest type of divine love, when we come in contact with that, and they're showing, not just the reality of that, but the beautiful reality of that, right? The charming and the sweet reality and meaningful significance of that. So that coming in contact with that, and Brahman, this wandering, right? It's like you've arrived home, right? After wandering. And this, of course, reminds us that there's a famous verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I know Suhasini Didi knows that verse very well. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavanji Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. And the same word, this Brahman, Brahmite, the same word is used there. It's wandering, right? That, throughout so many lifetimes, through so many species of life and planes of life, we're wandering like lost souls. But coming in contact with receiving some good fortune, bhagya, then we contact the guru, the pure devotee, the saint. And then, by their grace, we get the connection of Krishna and the seed of the vine of devotion, right? That seed of faith, of Shraddha, is planted within the soil of our heart. And then the whole journey, the real journey begins, right? We don't have to wander aimlessly anymore, but the real journey is starting. And so we're so, this is just everything for us to make contact with the pure devotee. Harirasa Galad, you know, and this is it, right? It's all about sweetness in the end. Their hearts melted in the joy of love. That's what it comes down to, you know, that they want to give us joy, real joy, permanent joy, not temporary joy of the body, the mind, the senses, but eternal joy on the plane of Atma, soul, and beyond soul to Paramatma, supreme soul, and beyond. So this verse is very relevant and striking for us. And it seems to me, don't you think, Subhasinji, this verse is actually kind of like a purport on that Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jeev, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like elaborating on it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Now I'm looking at it again. It seems to be like a commentary on that verse. So nice. No, and otherwise it's like, you know, there's that verse in Bhagavad Gita, Yani Sha Sarvabhutanam Jasyam Jagati Bhutani. You know, that, you know, where, you know, where we are sleeping, they are awake. And where they're awake, we're sleeping. Right? Otherwise, it's like blind. We're blind to that, the joy of that higher world, right? That awakened world. It's like darkness to us. We're blind there. We don't have the eyes to see. We don't have the sense to perceive that, right? So the pure devotee, this Vaishnava saints, they're giving us those eyes, right? Awakening our hearts. You know, Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Right? It's all within us. It's just that the heart's a little, you know, packed, compounded, compacted, knotted up. The eyes are there, but they're closed, right? The Vaishnavas are opening our eyes and opening our hearts and showing us what our real prospect is, what's really raising the bar for us. So this is our good fortune. Okay, any other comments from anyone, or should we move on to the next verse? Okay, we can go on to verse 9. Jaidev, are you available for chanting verses? And welcome to Radhana Rupini and Dana, who also joined us. Dandavat. Maybe Jaidev can't come on right now. Okay, I'll chant this verse here. Hare Shakti Sarvam Chid Achid Akilam Sat Padinati Vivartam No Satyam Shuti Mata Virudam Kalimalam Hare Beda Bedo Shuti Vihita Tattvam Surimalam Tatta Premna Siddhir Bhavati Nitadam Nitya Vishaya. Analysis. Chid, so this is the word for word, more or less breakdown. Chid Achid Akilam Sarvam. So this is actually quite basic Sanskrit. Even I can understand this. This chit or chit, right? Referring to consciousness. Achit, unconsciousness, non-conscious. Akila means and everything. And sarvam is also everything. So everything in existence, whether conscious or unconscious. Parinati Syat is a transformation, Hare Shakti, of Sri Hari's potency. And most, I think all of you can recognize that, Shakti, right? These endings are just, they're different grammatical endings in Sanskrit. You can recognize the root here. So Hare Shakti, Hari's Shakti, right? Sri Hari's potency. Vivartam, the Mayavadi theory. So this is a theory of the Mayavad, Shankaracharya impersonal conception, and maybe Suvasini or Jayadev can give a better explanation. But as I understand, so this Vivartavad, it refers to, I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong, but refers to this conception that the absolute, which is the Brahman, right, the great impersonal light, which represents the ultimate divinity, which we are also a part of. We are also one with, rather. This is their conception, that it has the propensity of coming under the influence of illusion, right? And that's why, we're here, right? Not as like jiva soul separated parts, but we are actually the absolute. That's their belief. Is that correct, Suvasini? Did you say?
Well, I think it is, but this is the general Mayavadi theory, right? Whatever you said, that is their conception.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They don't believe that the absolute can remain above Maya, right? But has the ability, has the propensity to be transformed and come under the influence of Maya, rather than, as we know from Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is always the master of Maya, the master of illusion.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a convenient theory which explains why we're actually God, but we just temporarily, we happen to come under Maya, but I'm actually God. It's like, well, if you're really God, like how would it be possible for you to come under the influence of one of your own energies? So it doesn't really make sense, but it's a convenient idea.
So this is the in the Daśa-Mūla, the first verse. So this point is like, can you tell me, Didi, which point is this one, this verse? Sorry,
what did you say, Didi?
In the very first, verse, everything is condensed, the 10 points.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah, sorry, I kind of lost context here. I lost the plot. I was just kind of in the text. I forgot, oh yeah, where we are in the text. Yeah, thank you so much for placing us, Suvasini. That's right. So we are going through these 10 principles, right, which were summarized in the first introductory verse. So let's go back to that. It is a helpful reference. So it's this, right? This sakalamapi beta prakasham. Beta prakasham sakalam. That everything, sakal, so everything, prakash means like manifestation. So everything in existence, everything that is is a manifestation, beta abed, both different and non-different from the Lord at the same time. So everything in existence is a manifestation, simultaneously one with and different from the Lord, right? That's the point that is, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's point number 8. Yeah, and the previous verse about the importance of the Vaishnavas, this one, this vimuktam cha bhavat, that even though a soul may be under the influence of Maya, it may become mukta, may become liberated by their bhav, by their mood of devotion, which, as is being elaborated in that verse, is inspired by the contact of the pure Vaishnava, the pure saint. Yeah, thank you, Suvasini. Let's go back. Okay. Yeah, so that's the point, right? That contrary to this Vivartavad conception, this Mayavad conception, we are distinct from the absolute. We are particles, and there is a oneness, but there's also a distinction. So some like kind of context is being Bhakti, it's giving some context by showing some contrasting theories, right? Because, one thing we want to remember is it's, perhaps may not feel so relevant to ourselves, but in the era when our modern gurus were sharing Krishna consciousness, this Mayavad was a very, had a very prominent position. And nowadays it does too, but we see it also in the West, but it's a very vague kind of watered down idea that you come across, right? Like everything is one and this, but this is a specific conception that they have, more precise ideology that they have. And so this was it's very dominant, we could say probably the most dominant spiritual conception in India. Again, even in India nowadays, things are losing their specificity. Our Gurudev also mentioned that there's more and more of just a hodgepodge thing developing. But we've heard from our Gurudev, like when he was young and, joined the mission. And we know like from the preaching of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and then also in Bhakti Vinod's time, like this was something that they really had to deal with. And so it was something that they had to address, in a specific and serious way. Our Gurudev, he mentioned that when his Guru Maharaj, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, our Param Gurudev, and Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, when they would meet, this was often one of their main subjects of discussion. Like, how do we defeat the Mayavad conception? And sometimes they'd spend hours like discussing this and going through so many different points and angles. And our Gurudev mentioned how sometimes he'd get, lunchtime would pass and he would get hungry and they would still be talking. And he's, like a 17-year-old kid. So we see here also, right? It's something relevant for the society of the time. And so Bhakti Vinod is addressing, within that context. So Kalimalam. So that theory is the dirt of the Kali Yuga, Shruti Mata Virudam, contrary to the teachings of the Vedas. Hare, Sri Hari's Beda principle of simultaneous distinction and non-distinction, Suvimalam, is the perfectly pure Shruti Vihita Tattvam, principle recognized by Veda. Tata, from that principle, Nitaram, extreme, Siddham, perfection, Premna, of love, Nitya Vishaye, with the eternal objective, Bhavati, ensues. Okay, we'll go to this translation. The entire creation, conscious and unconscious, is a transformation of Sri Krishna's potency. Vivartavad, the theory of illusion, is fallacious, a contamination of the age of Kali, contradictory to the wisdom of the Veda. The perfectly pure principle recognized by the Veda is the principle of inconceivable, simultaneous distinction and non-distinction, known as Achincha Veda Tattva. From that axiomatic teaching, the perfection of love for the supreme truth is ever realized. Okay, well, I don't know if I have any other comments on that verse. Does anyone else want to add anything? Sebastian, did anything you want to add?
Yeah, nothing to add, actually.
Okay, then we'll go on. So this is the last verse, or no?
No, there is like 13, 12.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay, so that was 0.9. No, this is 0.8 actually. We went through 0.8, although it's verse 9, it's 0.8. So now this is 0.9. So this is addressing the point, like, so these two words, I think we pointed them out recently, sadhya and sadhana, right? The sadhana means the practice, and sadhya means the goal. And so those 2 points are addressed in these last two, points on the 10 points. Sorry, I didn't articulate that very well. Principles, that's the word I want. These 2 principles, they're the last 2 principles mentioned out of these 10. What is the sadhana? What is the way? And what is the sadhya? What is the goal? So here in verse 10, the sadhana, the path, the way, that's being described. Suvasini, do you want to chant that verse first?
Yeah, okay. Shruti Krishna Kyanam Smarananati Puja Vidhi Ganas Tatha Dasyam Satyam Paricharanam Apyatmadadhanam Navangani Shraddha Pavitha Hridaya Sadhayati Va Raje Seva Lubdho Vimala Rasabhavam Sa Labhate. Shruti, hearing, Krishna Kyanam, singing the glories of Sri Krishna, Smarana Nati Puja Vidigana, remembering, praying, worshipping, etc., as enjoined in the scriptures. Tata, thus, Dasyam, servitude, Satyam, friendship, Paricharanam, personal attendance, Atma Dadanam Api, up to self-giving, Navangani Sadhayati Va, practicing the 9 integral limbs of devotion, Shraddha Pavita Hridayaha, with the heart sanctified by faith, Sad, the soul, Raje Seva Lubdaha, hankering for service in Vraja, Vimala Rasabhavam Labhate, attains the holy joys, loving emotion. Translation: hearing, chanting, remembering, praying, worshipping, serving, befriending, attending the lotus feet of the Lord, and offering one's very self. Cultivating these 9-fold integral limbs of devotion with a heart sanctified by faith, the soul becomes filled with a deep aspiration for divine service in Sri Vrindavana and attains the nectar of pure love divine for Krishna.
Beautiful. Any comments, Suvasini?
Well, it's the practices of devotional service, right? The 9 Navavida Bhakti, which is mentioned, right? He says about the nine limbs of devotion. So, all this to the sadhana, that is the what which actually practice, which takes us to the goal, right? So, and also he said with the heart sanctified by faith.
Yeah. It's a beautiful line, isn't it? Heart sanctified by faith. Shraddha Pavita Hridaya, right? That's more or less literal, isn't it? Like purified by faith. I see Scarlett has raised her hand.
Yes, Hare Krishna, and thank you very much for the class today. What I wonder is the whole the practice, it should be done in a very specific way. And just because if you do it wrong, then it will be bad. So for one who is not very familiar with all that practice, for me, I can say for me, fear of doing wrong make me not to be there to do it, to do this practice only what I can say, the only thing I can dare to do it is to read and to chant. But when it comes to do, for instance, puja, I don't know how to do puja. I don't know what puja is. You know what I mean? So all this practice, all the small things that you have to do when you do worshiping, for me is, I don't know if I dare to do it because I'm afraid to do it wrong, and thereby I bring on myself bad karma because of that. You understand what I mean?
You're saying that, and by the way, Scarlett, please forgive me. You sent me some messages recently, partly along the lines, and I haven't forgotten them. I wanted to give proper attention. And
I fully understand. It's okay. Take it easy. It's not important. Thank you.
no, of course, it is important. I didn't reply because I thought it was very important, and I wanted to give it proper thought. But one of the points that you brought up in your messages were actually along these lines, as I recall. You're saying that you feel this fear of doing things wrong in your practice, and so that makes you want to not do it at all, or is that what you're saying?
It takes me to take time and wait for it and still continue with only chanting, reading, and in my head, in my heart, please, Krishna, forgive me. I don't know how to prepare the food that you are going to like, and that's why I'm afraid I don't do it now. And please help me so that I can learn to do it. But at the moment I can't. Please accept my apologies and accept my chanting and what I'm doing, reading and so on.
Well, we have to remember that ultimately Krishna wants our heart, and and this is something that, and it can be difficult to really grasp, because in this sense, Krishna consciousness is different from pretty much any other religion, including the Vedic presentation, that it's no longer about getting things right, right? It's no longer about right or wrong, but it's really about heart, and it's really about intention. Like really, it's about, like, this is the, this religion, if we're going to call it, if we're going to use the word religion, it's where you could do everything right and it's wrong, right? Like you could check all the boxes, but your heart is not there. And then on the other hand, you could get it all wrong, but your heart is there, and that's what Krishna wants, and just as a very simple, child-friendly illustration of this, there's this incident we hear from our gurus of when Krishna was in Dwarka and he went to visit Vidura, who is the uncle of the Pandavas, and is also must be related to Krishna in some way. But I literally Googled a character map, like a tree of Mahabharata the other day, because it gets so.
Vidura was incarnation of Yamaraj and was the brother to Dhritarashtra.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he's an uncle to the Pandavas, but I think he's also related to Krishna in some extended way, but I can't remember right now. But anyway, Krishna goes to visit Vidura in Dwarka, and Vidura is away at the time, but his wife is home. And when Krishna arrives, like this sudden visit of the supreme, beautiful personality of Godhead, right? And she's so overwhelmed with ecstasy. And she, naturally you have a guest, you want to offer something. So she brings some bananas, but it said that she peels the bananas and then she was going to offer the fruit. You've probably heard this story. But because she was so bewildered in her ecstasy, she started throwing away the fruit and giving Krishna the peels. And Krishna was just happily accepting that. And then meanwhile, her husband Vidura returned in the meantime, and he saw this and he was shocked, and he went to chastise his wife. But what are you doing? And Krishna said, Vidura, actually, it's not about the fruit or the peel, but I'm interested in the devotion of my devotee. Bhava, there's this well-known expression in Bhagavatam, Bhava Grahi Janardana. Now, who's accepting the Lord, who's accepting the bhav, the heart of his devotee. So, this is the crucial factor. He doesn't need anything that we do. And it's no longer about following particular procedures or rituals, but it's about the inner awakenment of the heart and natural devotion for the Lord. So, because we are in a conditioned state, then we follow some rules and some guidelines because our hearts aren't fully awakened yet, right? But we have to remember that that's never the sum and substance of what we're doing, not what we're about, but Krishna wants our heart, he wants our faith, and so, and another thing is that we can't be afraid of getting it wrong, and I know it can be, I don't want to sound insensitive, and for someone who's been through a lot of, who's seen the dark side in life, it can be difficult to really believe in the love and mercy of the Lord, but that is really the case. We have to get away from the idea of a vengeful Lord. And although it may be beyond our ability to conceive at present, whatever we've been through, there's some purpose behind that. And it's not vengeance, that's not the idea, but there's some correction that's coming there. And again, that I don't want to sound insensitive, and that may be very difficult, but we have to remember we're dealing with a very limited spectrum of perception, right? Our capacity to perceive is very limited at present. And so that's why, there's an element of blind faith. In general, we discourage blind faith, but because we're dealing with something that we can't see with our current capacity for perception, because of that, then we have to rely on that higher vision, right? Just like a surgeon can see something that we can't see, right? A psychiatrist can see more deeply in an area that we can't see, or a surgeon couldn't see, right? And so on. So then when it comes to spiritual life, we turn to the spiritual experts who have that deeper vision. And we're learning, and we're being told and experiencing more and more that this is really about love and affection and mercy. We want to become friends with God. He wants to become friends with us. He wants to play with us. Can we get with that? God wants to play with us. That's where this is all going, right? But it's, let's think of it like this, that we're kind of like these dysfunctional kids in the playground who have, different mental issues. And so we need to go through some training and some correction. But once we're healthy, then we can go and play in the playground with the other kids. But right now we may not be ready for that because we have different conduct disorders or whatever it may be, right? We'll just cause some disturbance with the other kids. But they want us to play. It's a playground. That's what this is about. That's where our gurus want to take. They want to take us to the playground. Really. Our Gurudev, he actually used those words once. He said that, we pay our dandavat, we pay our respects to all the different expressions of God, and then we'll go to play in the playground with Krishna. That's what we're here for. We're here for joy, for rasa, and that's really what it's about. So, really it's the ego, our false ego. Srila Sridhar Maharshi, in one place, he compared it to the black box that they hold in vehicles, like airplanes, especially. We hear they have these black boxes, right? They're keeping a record of everything that's taking place in the course of the journey, right? And so our ego, Srila Sridhar Maharaj compares it to that. Our ego is like this black box, which has collected all this information, right, based on all of our experiences in this world over so many different lifetimes. And so that black box of ego is creating these prejudices and these filters, and that makes it difficult for us to join the dance, right? To join the beautiful dance of Krishna consciousness. But we have to try and let those go and try and appreciate this for what it is. You know, there's this famous verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, Jnane prayasham udapasya namanta evan. And this jnane, you know, whatever, this verse is explained in different ways, but one way in which our Gurudev explained it once, which I really appreciate, is, give up all the knowledge that you have. Everything that you know, leave it at the door. Everything that you know, like, leave it, let it go. Come with an open heart to this. Clear, clean slate. Leave it all and just receive this.
The thing I have learned, I didn't learn from anything else. It's by reading all the Shastras book and Srimad Bhagavatam and so on and so on. By reading them, I got to understand, to learn that about karma, about that whatever you do, you collect everything like a karma, bad or good, and then you have to be born again and to pay again with your what you experience. It's karma you pay for. So it's not that I learned it from somewhere else. I learned it because of I have been reading Srimad Bhagavatam and all the Shastras and Puranas and Upanishad and so on and so on. When I read them, that's why I have learned, my understanding of what I have learned, of what I have studied, it's that it makes me to be careful. I can say so. It makes me to be careful. It makes me to not to do things that I don't know 100% that is right. It makes me to be careful. Chanting, I know that I can really look at the heaven and just look at the sky and just do it. And I know that when the sun is up is the perfect way to chant and so on. So I sit and do my 16 round. I just focus on it. And I know that because I'm sitting and focus on it, that's okay. That's right to do it. That's the right way to do it. But then when it comes to the doing puja, doing offering, cooking food, and do it in a certain way, that's where I will be. I am somewhat cautious and careful. What I think is, okay, if it was only the king I have to look up to, and it's the king that that I have to interact with, that's will be easier for me to learn, to understand, and to do it right. But it's not only the king. The king have minister, president, and so on and so on and so on and so on. And these minister, this authority which doing things on behalf to do the Lord Krishna's wish, the king, then they have another way to want people to do something, or to want us to do something. And if we do the minor bad or wrong, then they have right to say, you did wrong. No, you don't go further here. Stop. You stand there. You understand what I mean?
Okay. See, this is why I told you not to read too much. But I see Radha Rupini has her hand raised. I'll just say something first. See, one thing you have to remember is that there are different instructions. See, like when you go to a school, it's very clear, right? Oh, this is kindergarten, this is class 1, this is class 2, this is class 10, this is degree level, right? When you go to a school, it's very clear. But this is what's tricky when we're approaching the literature of the Vedas, or in general, we could say, spiritual, scripture. Different instructions are being given to different classes of persons. And we have to understand which is for what's for who at what time. So this is a big discussion, but we are coming to the end of our time, and Radha Rupini wants to say something. So I'll just summarize it in this way. The Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we're on Bhaktivinoda Thakur is part of our theme also. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he boiled everything down. I mean, really, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has done so many very helpful things for us. So he distilled like every motivation in this world down to 4. That everything in this world is based on 4 types of motivation. And the instruction in the Vedas, in the Vedic literature, is aimed at these 4 different classes of persons. Right? You may have heard this before, but the most basic motivation is fear. And this is for very basic people who won't, so the instruction at people who are motivated only by fear, is basic, right? They won't do the right thing unless they're going to be punished for not, right? If you don't threat, like think of a very aggressive, dysfunctional child in school, a student. The teacher would say, "Oh, we're going to put you in detention, and we're going to expel you if you don't change your ways," because they won't listen to anything else, right? And then what's the next level? Prospect, gain. Oh, we're going to give you a bonus if you work extra hard. You're going to get that promotion that you want if you work extra hard. Then there's a whole bunch of literature in the Vedas aimed at those persons. The whole karma, it's called karma kanda, right? You know about that, I'm sure. So persons who would only be motivated to approach the divinity if they feel there's something in it for them, right? That's the second level. What's the third level? Duty, right? And Bhagavad Gita is mostly operating on that level. This is what yoga is about. Karma yoga in particular is based on this idea. Selfless duty, just doing your duty, doing the right thing because it's your duty to do so, right? That's a much higher level to operate on, right? I'm going to do the right thing just because that's my duty as a human being and as a soul, right? Atato Brahma Jigyasya. Why have I been given this consciousness? To search after spirit. That's just my duty. I don't need to feel afraid or I may get something out of it. Just as a soul in this world, that's my duty. That's my need, right? Then what's the highest? Love. Right? That's the highest level of instruction. Then all the rules change at that point. Everything that was told before doesn't matter anymore. Right. And if you look in, like, I'm not making this up, right? If you look in Chaitanya Charitamrita, read the 8th chapter of Chaitanya, study the 8th chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita. If you want to study that chapter, and you'll see there that Ramananda Rai and Mahaprabhu, they're going through in a very systematic way all the different levels of theistic conception, approach to God, right? Like it's very, very helpful. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj is discussing that chapter at the end of Search for Shri Krishna. It's very helpful because in a very systematic, gradual way, different conceptions are being proposed. And then the next, like, so then Brahmananda is proposing something, Mahaprabhu is saying, go deeper. Ramananda is proposing something else. And it's all systematic development here. Then Mahaprabhu's like, no, go deeper, give me something else, right? Because all of these conceptions have their validity, have their place, have their purpose. But what's something deeper, right? And then finally, what Mahaprabhu accepts as the starting point is this cultivation of love for the Lord in Shravan and Kirtan, hearing and chanting, coming from a natural place. Right? So that's something to remember as we're going through, different bodies of literature. There are different instructions for different levels. And this is, now you've come to this, right? The family of Mahaprabhu, right? And forget about all the rules. Just come to this from your heart. Don't be afraid anymore. Do what you feel inspired to do in Krishna consciousness and let it be natural. Forget everything that happened yesterday and start today as a new day. Those are my humble words of advice. And let's see what Radhana Rupini has to say.
Good morning, Dandavats. I just had a couple thoughts in regards to what Didi said, the other devotee. First is that when we read, when we first start reading the books within our line, we were always suggested to start with Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita is the foundation. And then you go to Srimad Bhagavatams, and they have to be read from the first canto in succession, not just pick any book, it kind of goes that way. And then from Srimad Bhagavatam, you go to Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's what we were, that's how we had learned how to read these books. And also another thing is that when you read these books, it's always good to have a mentor who is more advanced than you. And you would only read, maybe 30 minutes a day or a few verses so that you can actually really chew on it. You can talk to your mentor about it, ask them questions, really understand it, and then move on to the next, So that's how I've always done my readings, and that's how we were kind of, we had Bhagavatam in the morning and Bhagavad Gita in the evening. But anyway, and the other thing too about all the pujas, the pujas I think would refer to deity worship, the very meticulous, particular deity worship, which is really beautiful and wonderful because it takes you to a different sphere. It's all of a sudden you're not here in Kali Yuga. But I really believe that that's for the temple. Like Chaitanya Saraswat Mat, Seva Ashram, they have beautiful deities, beautiful worship. That's where all that, all the mantras, all the different types of pujas, that's where we are able to do it. At home, it's best to have pictures of Krishna, just have an altar with pictures of Krishna, pictures of, if you have a spiritual master, you're a spiritual master, and just offer flowers daily. Whatever you're eating, you offer it to Krishna. If you don't know the mantras for offering to Krishna, you just fold your hand and you say the mantra, Hare Krishna, and with your whole heart, and offer what you're eating. It's your intention that Krishna wants, like Vishaka says, it's the intention Krishna wants. So at home, we make things more simple, and some of us do have deities at home. Like I do have some deities at home. And I remember asking a higher Vaishnava, how do I treat my deities at home? And this higher Vaishnava answered me, they're part of your family. Just treat them as so. Just treat them like part of your family. But really, it's best just to have pictures, have beautiful pictures of even deities at different temples. And we don't really need to have, unless you're way far along in your, but anyway, so those were my thoughts. We don't have to make things so complicated. Krishna, he wants the sweetness from our heart, the way we offer our like thoughts, our thoughts on a daily basis, not if we can can we say this word or not in Sanskrit? Can we pronounce it? That's not so important. It's nice if we can get there, but that's not what's going to get us back home to Godhead.
May I ask, does Gaudiya Math have any temple in Gothenburg?
Gothenburg.
Yes, Sweden.
If Gaudiya Math has any, I'm not sure. I'd have to look into. We don't have any branches of our mission there for sure.
Oh.
Whether there's a Gaudiya Math or ISKCON, I'm not sure. I think there must be.
There is from ISKCON, there is a preaching center. It's not temple per se, it's preaching center. They have deity there, but there is no everyday program there. There is, I think, 3 days a week program there. The most, it's like a restaurant. They sell prasada. So it's not that I can go there every day. And it has happened things that it makes it difficult to go there at the moment. So there is no temple to go. There will be a Hindu temple. They're going to, they're doing now, they are building now. It's Hindu temple, and in that temple, there are going to be many of different gods, different lords like Lord Shiva, Ganesh, and so on, going to be there, which it's open for everyone to go there. But I don't know if there's something for me there.
Well, I'd like to thank Scarlett for her wonderful questions, and as always, and also Radhana Rupini. I really love how you tied everything together and put things in context. That's a really valuable point, that it's true, there is a difference between like how we're privately practicing and how things should be represented in like an official institution of our mission. There is a difference. And our Gurudev Srila Govinda Maharaj, he also made a distinction between like home deity worship and temple deity worship. And because the temples, they have to represent something, represent and set some standard, right? We need standards. But at home, we can connect and practice more in terms of what is the essence. So I'm really glad that you made that clarification, Radhana Rupini. And we are kind of coming to the end of our time, but I hope, Scarlett, did your heart find some solace in some of the words that were spoken?
Thank you. Thank you for today.
Thank you, Scarlett. And any final comments from anyone in our group? Okay. Welcome Gautam Krishna Prabhu, I believe in London, who's also joined in the last few moments. Suvasni Didi, any last final words of wisdom for our group?
No, nothing to add. It was lovely meeting and lovely discussion and good points, you shared very nice points. Very helpful for everyone. Thank you.
All right. Well, this is such a beautiful gathering that we're having every week, and I look forward to next Wednesday. Jai Shlavati Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj Jai. All the assembled devotees and sincere seekers Jai. Hari Jai.
Jai.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol. Shaka Didi ki Jai.
Jai. Thank you for your association.
Thank you. And